Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is another episode of SPR Weekly. First up, we've got a G63 in. Couple of issues with this. Driver's window won't go up and down. Quite a simple problem. The cable has snapped on the window regulator, so we've got to get a new one of those fitted. And the dashboard is literally lit up like a Christmas tree. So we need to have a look into that and see what's going on. So as you can see, we've got the door card off. You can see where the cable snapped. So when you're trying to operate the window up and down, it's just making a grinding noise. The motor's just grinding away at the cable. So we've got a new window regulator. Motor looks in good condition. There's no worn teeth, so that will live again. So that's good. Have a guess how much the window regulator is for a G63, Mercedes G-Wagon 63 AMG. 50 quid, £50 for a window regulator for a G-Wagon. Now I think that is extremely reasonable. Most G-Wagon parts are really expensive. So let's get the window regulator out, get the new one in, get the door trim back on, and I'll show you all these lights on the dash. There is so many lights on the dash, all to do with differential locks, transmission, ESP, all sorts of different things. I've had a look into it. There's a recall for a wiring modification of some sort. So I'm actually going to send it back to Mercedes for that, to get that done, and I think that's going to take care of the problem. Right, that is the G-Wagon all done. Nice and smooth. This is actually a footballer's car. G-Wagons are like the worst car ever. And anyone who owns a G-Wagon will know what I'm talking about.
But as I approached the G-Wagon, I was genuinely excited. I got butterflies in my stomach. I was really excited to get behind the wheel of it. I pressed the chunky door button on the driver's door, grinning like a Cheshire cat, and then disappointment quickly followed. Have a look at this interior. It's like going back to something from the 80s.
They're not that great to drive. They're not that great to live with. They're just so cool. It's outdoes how bad they are. A lot of people that have never driven a G-Wagon presume that because they're so expensive, it's like the ultimate luxury. I've got to say, these newer ones are a lot better. I'm not sure when this newer release came out. The finish is so much better. So I think this is a 19 plate. Before this model, they were like the same for years and years and years. A G63 is probably the worst car Mercedes I've ever driven. It's weird how good they are at the same time. They're just that cool. It just outdoes how bad they are. But I might get a bit of stick for that. But yeah, people presume that these are like the ultimate luxury Mercedes, and you just couldn't be any far wrong. There's nothing S-Class about a G-Wagon, put it that way. Still love them, still would have one. You do feel like, I don't know, king of the road whilst you're driving one. You're looking down your bonnet with your big massive indicators strapped on your wings, and you do feel like you're driving a tank really. But yeah, that's this one done. On to the next one. Right, next up we have got an E-Class 212 E-Class. Quite a clean example this, to be fair. We've got a problem with the locking of the car. When you lock the car, the indicators are flashing very quickly and continue to do so. It's as though the alarm is going off but without a siren, and that's because I think the alarm is going off and the siren is faulty. However, on this particular model, you can get bad wiring going to the siren as well. It won't stop flashing until you press the lock button on the key for a second time, and then it stops. Got to get it on the ramp, inspect the siren and the wiring, see what's going on, and should I be correct in my diagnosis, I'll show you what we do to repair it. So first thing we've got to do, take the wheel arch cover out, which is where the siren is situated. We can then unbolt it from the body. Bolts are actually behind there. Unplug it and inspect this wiring, but as you can see already, the crap that gets stuck in there. Right, so we've got the siren disconnected from the body, and I can tell you now there is water on that plug. Let's disconnect it if I can. Ooh. Oh yeah, look at that. And inside the siren plug is very corroded. So what we need to do here is, obviously we need a new siren, but we also need to, look at that.
Definitely need a
wires corroded away. We need a new siren and we need to repair this wiring. So what we do is we order a plug, wires and pins, make our own loom and cut this off and solder a new piece in. So then that way we've got a fresh set of wiring, pin, plug, siren, good connection on everything, and then we can lock and unlock the car without everything flashing at us and the alarm falsely going off, even though it's not making a noise. In fact, I used to have a couple of these looms pre-made. I'll see if I've still got one.
A few moments later.
There you go. So here's one I made earlier. So that's a fresh plug, fresh wiring. We just need to take note of what wire goes where, because obviously the new ones are all the same colour. A siren, get the repair done, wrap it all up so it all looks nice and factory, and we shall go from there. So what we're going to use is, we have stripped the wiring back, snipped the old loom off, which is this, took it right back to where there's no corrosion. We're going to use these heat shrink solder joint connection thingy-mabobs, which when you heat it up, not only does it shrink the heat shrink to seal it, it also melts that piece of solder in the middle and solders the wires together. So you get a really good connection and it protects it from the elements as well. And then we need to copy the wiring that comes out the back. Right, so now we've got them on, we can slide these connections over. And now we're going to melt them down with the soldering iron, which will melt the heat shrink to the wires to give it proper protection, and it will melt the little piece of solder to the wiring to solder the wires together. So we're going to shrink the two red tabs down so the solder can't escape, and then you can see the solder melting on the wires. That's it, job done. One down, two to go. Right, so that's the 3 solder connections done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to finish it off with some cloth tape, some Tessa tape, which is probably the best on the market, to be honest. This will just give it that nice factory finish and a bit more protection. Not that anybody's going to see it. So we are, one finished repair loom repaired. Now we're just waiting for the siren to be delivered, put it all back together, and that should be the end of our problems. New siren, just been to Mercedes to pick this up. That's now plugged in, we'll just leave it there for now. Check that it's working. That's it, job done. So if you're having similar issues to this, it could be that. Next up on the SPR Weekly, we've got an E-Class 211. Really common fault, we've got a broken rear spring. Not the end of the world. Upon doing the rear spring, this bottom arm is covered up with a plastic cover, which is one of those. We've removed the cover, took the spring out, and you can see inside the arm that it's completely rotten and it's got holes in it. Always a difficult conversation this, because obviously we've rang the customer, said you need a spring, not a big deal, couple of £100, and then all of a sudden you're ringing them back and saying, oh, we've started the spring and now we've discovered you need a bottom arm. We've given the customer the option with this one. A Mercedes arm, if I'm not mistaken, is £400 plus VAT. They're in stock, so we can get on with it straight away. Or I can order an aftermarket arm, which I can't get from any of my suppliers, so I'd have to order it online, which is about half the price, but would have to sit and wait for it. That could easily take a week to come. So we do give out options. Is the saving worth not having a car for a week? I don't know. So anyway, we spoke to the customer. He has opted for the Mercedes arm so we can get on with it and be as efficient about it as possible. Luckily, he's a really good long-term customer, so you know he understands that these things happen with older cars. Let us know what you think in the comments about that, because you know some customers wouldn't be happy with that. You can get involved in these jobs and then all of a sudden something else crops up and then you get a phone call back. Right, next up on the SPR Weekly, I've got an A-Class with the little Renault engine in. I've got an engine management light and I've got a glow plug light. 2-in-1 on this one. So it's looking like we've got a glow plug issue. I need to obviously do some testing. But on this particular engine, if you do have glow plug issues or a fault in the glow plug system, I'll say, it does bring your engine management light on as well. So it's like double panic. You've not only have you got a glow plug light on, you've got an engine light on as well. So we'll get this in and test this out. You've got to be pretty careful when you test the glow plug system on this car, as I will demonstrate, because it can quite easily catch you out and give you a bad diagnosis. Failing that, this is our last week at the garage for 2024. What you've watched so far is probably from weeks ago when I've attempted to record another week at the garage. But this second half, probably, of the video is actually 1 week-ish. So this is my first job of the day. It's the last week before we close for Christmas and we do not open until the new year. So we'll get this in, get a look at it, and we'll also show you what's going on in the garage. Right, we've now gained access to the glow plugs. Quite a few things to take off on this to get to it. We've got to move out of the way a couple of boost pipes. You've got the engine cover to get off. And then you can't really see, but they're right down the bottom. So first thing I'm going to do is test the resistance on each one with my multimeter. So first reading on the first glow plug is 1.8 ohms, which is good. That would indicate that's a good plug. Second plug, the same, 1.8. Third plug is 22. Fourth plug is just under 2 ohms. So that would tell me we've got one bad plug, but we do another test for confirmation. We load test all the glow plugs. Anything over 4 ohms would indicate a bad glow plug. Something like that. 22 is definitely too high anyway. But for confirmation, we have another tester. I'll put it on a good plug. It's a good confirmation test while we're in there, basically. So that is on the lead. So basically, it's connected live on earth and one to the plug. You press test, puts a load on the plug, green for go. So that is good, which is the same result we got with, obviously, with our multimeter. So I'll try and get this on glow plug number 3, because the days of, you used to get, if you got resistance down a glow plug, it was good, and if you didn't, it was bad. Those days are gone. You still get resistance down a bad plug, so you can get a false diagnosis. And I know this because first time I came across it, I nearly got caught out. Just listening for the beeper on the multimeter instead of actually visually looking at what is the resistance. So that is now connected to cylinder 3, which multimeter said was faulty. As you can see, it's not even accepting a load. So that's confirmation that that is no good. So that's the end of our testing. So we do need a set of glow plugs. A lot of people would say, oh, can't you just replace the one? No.
Hell no!
Don't bother. Do the full set of glow plugs. Last thing you want is another one to fail and you got to do the whole job again and the whole testing procedure again as well. So we've got a set of plugs. On these we use Baru plugs, which is the same as Mercedes plugs. Baru number is GE110. The reason we use Baru is it's the same brand as the Mercedes one, but they are actually half the price. These plugs from Mercedes are £40 each. So you're looking at £80 plus your VAT, call it 100 for your set before you've even fitted them. So we're saving 80 quid on this job before we start. So that's always good news for the customer, and I'm happy. It's a really good brand. Get these swapped out, built back up, and then make sure codes have gone to stored. and then it's another one back on the road. Right, that's the A-Class all back together. As we can see now, when we turn the ignition on, glow plug light illuminates, then goes off. Start the car. Glow plug light stayed off, engine management light is still on. We are going to have to plug it back on the diagnostic machine, make sure all faults have gone to stored, and then we can clear codes, road test, and that is that done. Next up, we have got a good old 204 C-Class with a very popular 651 engine. It's got a coolant leak. Customers topping it up a couple of times a week. These cars suffer with quite a few different coolant leak issues. This is one of the main ones. The fuel filter housing also doubles up as a water pipe. Now the gasket on the end swells up and loses its shape and causes a leak, so that shouldn't be like that. It should be perfectly round, so you can see where it's been leaking. But yeah, when you say to somebody you need a fuel filter housing because you've got a coolant leak, it's difficult to explain, but that is a coolant pipe as well. These are also common for going really hard and brittle and breaking. So we've drained all the coolant out. John is pretty much fitted the new one. As you can see, once it's fitted, you'd never know that was a coolant pipe at the same time. It's a little bit fiddly. John's just fitting one of the last bolts and he's just showing us his technique of getting the last one in. So we'll get this finished off, fresh coolant in the header tank, get it all bled up, and then that's another one done. C-Class 651 coolant leak all finished, back together. We are now going to do a coolant bleed, which you do on the diagnostics machine. Flush coolant circuit, and then you set it off. This is a 20-minute bleed. As you can probably hear, it makes the engine run at 1400 RPM for 20 minutes, and it produces like a graph for us at the end, and that's the cooling system bled. After that 20-minute cycle, we can then road test, and then we always leave the car for a couple of hours and then check the coolant level again, because as air's escaping, coolant level will drop. And that's another one done. Last but not least? Last but not least on the weekly. I usually say next up on the weekly, but this is the end of this weekly episode, because it's our last day in work before we close for Christmas and New Year. I've got one order to pick. That's an online order from our website. I've got to do that. Got a couple of things to finish off. Just getting my car all nice and clean. We have done a video on my car, which is due a service now. We've done some pretty in-depth work on it. So there will be a video coming out for that in the new year. And I also want to show you this package I've just been sent, which is very nice, just as we're about to close for Christmas. Look at that. So it comes like this, opens up, Lindt chocolate with a note in. Lindt chocolate is one of my favourites. Anyone who has had Lindt will know that you only can have two and then you feel sick. So it makes it last. With a nice note in it. Hi Sam, very grateful for your email advice recently, given how busy you are. Looking forward to becoming a client one day. Cheers, Luke. Well, Luke, thank you very much for that, because I obviously get inundated with emails, and you will be amazed at how many I reply to and I don't receive a response back, not even a thank you. So for somebody to actually go out and do that and send it to me is unbelievable. And I actually went back and found the email to see who he was so I could thank him. And to be honest, I didn't really give him much advice, so at all, compared to other people. I've sent a page like that back of information before now and not received a thank you. So I highly appreciate that, Luke. I can't reply to all my emails because I just don't have time. I work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I'm in the garage. I just don't have time. So anyone that does email, that I don't get back to. It's not that I'm ignoring people, it's just that I don't have time. I've got to look after my regulars, but I do try my best. I do really try my best. So thank you very much for that. So last job of the day is to pack this item and get it in the post. He is lucky. It is 2:45. We're going home in 15 minutes. So yeah, if you didn't know, we've got an online shop. We also have an online shop where you can buy our merchandise. Link below for that. This weekly episode is actually not a very good one. I attempted to film a weekly a couple of times and it just wasn't working out. So it is what it is, this one. I didn't really want to waste the footage, and I wanted to thank everyone for all your support with the channel this year. It has been amazing. We've got a video coming out on my car in the new year. They seem to go down well. Everyone seems pretty interested in my car and how much it painfully hurts my wallet. Look out for that, and wishing everyone a happy Christmas and a happy new year. That's it. We'll see you on the next one.